Yeah, so Spud, how's the crack?
Moss, what's the crack? On Will 2 Gama.
Tommie. Gahadawar Fod. Is that the only answer you're allowed to?
The heen talk. The heen talk.
Yeah.
Here,
Tommie.
I was watching the you know, remember the DNA culture thing I was telling you about before? The TG4 have a 3-episode documentary about the DNA of the...
Yeah.
So I watched episode 1 and 2 ages ago, and they're really good. And I watched episode 3 last night, and it's good, but it has almost has nothing to do with the other 2 episodes at all.
Right,
it's kind of like they went. It's kind of like they went. They start off the episode, and they're looking for one of there's a key battle between the English planters and an Irish chieftain. He had a pretty fucking cool name. What was his name? Rua Ogo Murta or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Which is basically Rory Murphy.
Rory Murphy, yeah. So Rory Murphy, Red Rory. He was fighting against this fella called Crosby, right? And Crosby was an English planter who had been given, Stradbally, where Electric Picnic is.
Yeah. So he was
that
given
was
Electric
land,
Picnic,
right? This Crosby fella.
Did he have friends who were called Stills and Nash? No.
But now you know that, like, anyone you know called Crosby is like a planter. Okay, so you can't be friends with them anymore.
Oh, right,
because they're bad people who came from England and raped all the Irish, you know? So any Crosbys, we're not friends anymore.
I don't think I even know any Crosbys.
There's tons of them. Yeah, there's loads of them in Wexford, so there is. Went to school, loads of them. Anyway, so it starts off with that, and they go looking for, right, can we find any descendants of this Red Rory, whatever his name is? And they go into Trinity College and they're doing up the genome of the fucking DNA and all this stuff. And then he says, you know what? He could have thousands of descendants in Ireland. So we're not going out looking for even one of them. We're going to look for the female descendant, which comes from the other chromosome, you know?
Yeah.
And then he just goes, yeah, we couldn't find any of them either. And then it completely stops at DNA and just goes into half an hour of the Flight of the Earls. It's nothing to do with the rest of it.
That's like what are we going to do for the last half hour?
That's
exactly. Crazy. Oh no. Oh no.
But it is. It's still very good because we would know from Irish in school in history, the Flight of the Earls is touched on. I presume you remember some of it. It is quite good because there's some of it that I didn't know, you know. So now it's interesting. If anyone has any past interest in Irish history, have a look. It's on the TG4, which is the Irish language TV station. It's free and
don't use the app. It's the worst app ever in the world.
Yeah, the app is shite.
So bad.
Go to the website, and it doesn't give you the option of the English subtitles straight away. So you need to just click on the video first, and then
TG4 making you work for it, huh?
Listen to it in Irish, you know. It's good though. It's really good. The first 2 are really, really good, and then the third one is a bit like but it's still good. It's still interesting. It's just that doesn't have much to do with the DNA of the Irish.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch.
Basically,
it on
we're all kind of. The original Irish came from like the Middle East, as all people did, you know, mostly. And after the crossing from Africa into Europe, and then the start of Mesopotamia, Sumeria,
is that kind of disputers though?
Anyway.
No. I bet that out of Africa.
Actually, look, everything is disputed. Look at the fucking election. Didn't Trump put out something last night? I won the elections. Like, what?
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
Yeah,
everything is disputed.
It's amazing how many times Joe Biden has won the election at this point, isn't it? Like, was it 7 times or something?
Anyway, yeah, that was my kind. And I watched some Peter Kingsley stuff too, but we can talk about that later. What you went up
to? Daniel Ingram put out a video. Daniel Ingram, who's known, I suppose, mostly for Mastering the Core Teachings of the Buddha, which is an exceptional tome. It's a hefty tome, and it's also really good for beating your wife because it doesn't leave bruises. Like, you know, like a phone book. You know, it's like that kind of a thing. It's not
Jesus.
Do you ever hear that? That's you beat someone with a phone book because it doesn't leave bruises because it's too big.
Yeah, of course I've heard it, but I didn't know you did it.
I have a friend who did. No, I don't know anyone who's actually done it. But how would I? It doesn't leave any bruises. There's no evidence. So anyway, it's one of those big hefty tomes that you can beat anyone. It doesn't have, let's not be sexist. You can beat male or female with, and it won't leave.
Or non-binaries.
Or non-binaries, or whoever. Aliens, any of them. Well, might bruise aliens, where we don't have the full figures of facts and information on that. But there was this video, Dom, Dom, who was on the Magic People podcast. He posted it up in the Adventures in Woo Woo Discord. And it was all about him talking about magic and chaos magic in particular, and demons and all this kind of stuff. And I was going, he's obviously got into all this because he was never really into all that, going by the fact that he doesn't mention it once. Well, in the second version of Mastering Core Teachings, he does mention magic. And he mentioned it, magic, in a PDF that came out a couple of years ago. But in general, I just assumed he was very, Buddhist meditation centric. Yeah. And even in the interview that he has in The Blood of the Saints with Alan, it kind of, you can definitely read it as he doesn't know much about magic. But turns out he does. And he has been embedded in magic for, since day one. And then when you read the thing with Alan again, you can kind of go, all right, so he's not really, because he's talking to Alan about going, he's really asking, what do you think? And what it comes across is, I don't know much about this subject. Tell me more when you read it if you don't know he's into magic. But when you know he's into magic, it's him just being super polite. So what do you think, Alan? That kind of way. And you go, all right,
Funny.
But so he's been in it.
I saw all you guys talking about it on Discord, and I didn't get, like most conversations, I'm a lurker. I don't get involved in them, but because I have the book upstairs in the bedroom, and I'm not reading at the minute. I'm reading other stuff, but it's there, it's ready. And I that night I looked at the book and I went, well, fuck you anyway. Because of so you're into chaos magic now, are you? So there's 800 pages of Buddhism. Completely pointless that I spent fucking 90s lotties on, or whatever the fuck is it. Fuck you, Daniel Ming Ram.
Ming Ram, yeah. But it's a very interesting. I'll hesitate to say that I'll put the link in the show description. It's on the Discord anyway, because the last time I said I would put links in the description, and then someone came on the Discord and goes, "Can you put the link?"
Yeah, someone gave out to you. I saw that. Yeah.
Well, it's not really giving out, but I mean, in fairness, dead right.
Yeah, you do say you're going to do it, and then never do it. So
Yeah.
You've only been called out once, so
I'm doing well, doing quite well. So yeah, it's a very interesting kind of podcast. So I've kind of been hanging out with Daniel Ingram in a sense. He even followed me on Twitter, which was, remember when that used to matter? Like about 10 years ago, and someone famous followed me on Twitter. Now it's like, okay. I don't really use Twitter that much. What's the matter? He's definitely going to follow me and then mute me. So
So what's his thing with magic then? What's he into? Is it chaos magic? Yeah, or
he says chaos magic, but it seems to have his own kind of thing on it. Like he's kind of touched on all of these things. As far as I know, Dom was saying that he's like married to a witch. His mother was into tarot cards, and so there's kind of that kind of a kind of woo woo history going on. But he definitely went the science route because he's a medical doctor, or he's retired now because, as far as I know, Alan Chapman has mentioned something about that someone gave him a load of Bitcoin and now he's, a millionaire, lives on 50 acres of land, doesn't have to work. So, But it's an interesting one. He talks about all the different things about the Gouache, about Enochian magic in general, and some of the other ones I've been watching. He was coming at the whole COVID thing. It was obviously just in the middle of or just starting, and he's quite worried about it, as we all were. I mean, it's easy to point back at. You could look at some of my videos from that time, and I'm as equally worried about it. But he's definitely coming at it from like a medical point of view, and he says, my father. That he dealt with infectious diseases. That's what he did. So he has kind of a history in it. But he was doing the whole thing that you were doing as well. So, if someone sent him something, it was stayed outside the house for 3 days and all that kind of stuff. Do you still do that, or is that?
Yeah.
Are you still doing that?
No, we're still doing that. Yeah. Because the numbers shot up here again. Right. So I guess made me do it. And I'm there like I fucking ordered long johns, man, and it's so cold here in the evenings, and I'm like, I have to work for 2 other days in the fucking cold. Balls are frozen off me. Finally, I could open them. Then long johns came out. Are they called long johns? I don't know, the extra pants that you wear under your pants.
Yeah, long johns. Thermal.
Yeah,
underwear.
they are long johns.
Yeah.
Thermal not underwear though. They're trouser things, aren't they?
Well, they're under your wear. You know, you wear them under your trousers.
Yeah, but they're not under your wear and touching anything, you know, that shouldn't be touched unless by me.
And appropriate others.
Or the children at the playground. They're allowed to. I was told.
And this is definitely going to be the final podcast between Tommie and Spud. We've touched on wife beating and child abuse.
Pedophilia.
Well, it's the spirit of the age, isn't it? It's what everything.
It is indeed the spirit of the age.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, you know, this moral dilemma me and you have about trying to like, you know, Crowley and what's my guy, Rudolf Steiner and all these stuff. And it's kind of like, I brought up my dad once, and I'm like, "Do you like Gary Glitter?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I used to love his music. Do you still like his music?" Yeah. Okay.
But there's a thing about that, like say the Gary Glitter, or if say you were a huge Lost Prophets fan or whatever, which is like the
actually, I was going to bring that up. Yeah,
it's like. Should all your memories and all your love and all the things be taken away because, you know, of what someone else did? Now, I understand it tarnishes it and it ruins it and all that, but, like, it's like the Kevin Spacey thing. Like, whatever, I'm not even remotely getting into that, but I'm just saying, do I now not have to like Seven? Which is the film I've probably seen the most in my life because I really enjoy it or whatever. And you can kind of, oh no, it's okay in Seven because he's the bad guy.
He's the bad guy.
You know, see, you're meant to not like him.
Yeah, you know. Usual suspects. Yeah.
But like if it was like, I don't know, what's that one, American Beauty? Like say that's
American
your favourite
Beauty.
film. Yeah, and he's like, essentially, you know, he's the protagonist and thing. Like, do you not like that film? Can you not? And you probably can't identify with it or, you know, in the way you used to. It's very, very odd. It's like, at least when I get into the Beatles, you know, it already was known, you know, so you knew what you were getting into in a sense with the kind of.
You knew
maybe
John Lennon was a wife beater.
Maybe not to the level. You knew he was a heroin addict. You knew all the mad stuff, whatever, like that. But probably not as a 7-year-old. But you know, when you get into it consciously or whatever, but probably not to the level.
Do you remember they were looking for BBC had a thing years ago about like Britain's best person or person of the century award, and they put out these really good documentaries about the top 10 or something. And it was they did one about John Lennon. It was the first time I'd heard of this. That like because they had to show the good and the bad. Like they just had to because it would have come out anyway. And there was a few minutes in it where we were talking like, yeah, him and Yoko were going through some bad times because he was beating her so much. So they decided that he would swap Yoko with her sister, and that lasted for 3 months.
Her assistant. Yeah, who looked exactly like you.
What? When did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah, it's his assistant, and they moved to the other end of the country or something, the other side of the country. Very, very odd. All very odd. I don't know. But it's like...
Yeah, it's a man. I thought it was funny the way that my dad put it. He's just like, yeah.
No, but I think he's right in a sense.
The Lost Prophet thing is good. I do, yeah. I suppose if you like that music, then... and you're able to separate it then.
Well, I think it's different if you said to him, do you like Gary Glitter as a person still?
Of course.
And he said, yes. Then you go, damn, come on. You can't.
Not in public, all right? Not in the playground. Children can hear you.
Yeah. What do you do with that telephone book?
The Lost Prophets thing, there's been a couple of interviews with the other band members. I think not many now, there's only been a couple. And they're like, they're just fucking distraught about it because it's like this is our like one of our best friends.
Yeah.
And he does this horrible fucking thing. And we've been through so much, the highs and lows of being in a band, putting out, was it 3 albums, I think? The first two were pretty good. Like,
yeah.
And just like, we can't, like, I can't listen to it because of what happened, you know? Yeah. Totally, it's a mess, like, you know? This thing just pops in my head all the time because I'm just like, how can I like this person because of this? What do you call it? I call it the Kanye West thing. You had a name for it as well, didn't you? What was it?
I'm sure I did. That's many different things.
I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
Coldplay effect? No, Coldplay.
No, it's the John Lennon thing. That's probably the way.
John Lennon thing. Yeah, that's what you called it. Yeah.
I tend to be okay with it. Like in that I can go right. Like I I can understand it, and I it's the other thing. It's that I expect it, so I'm not surprised when it happens. So that it's like, because it happens so often. Like, we've talked about this before. I don't know if we talked about it in podcasts, but we've never talked about it in private, where you get into anyone, and at some point there's that, right, anti-Semitic, or right, misogynist. There's something, and you can either go. And I just find, if you're going to, and that, I mean, this is not good, but I don't have a solution to it. But if you're going to kind of discount people for their massive human flaws, or or outlooks, then who do you read? who do you look at? Like, it's like even down to David Bowie, right? Yeah, well, questionable actions, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's like, so who's left? You just cancel everyone. And I don't think I've done anything that would put me in jail. Well, I'm taking drugs, so that would put me in jail. But I haven't done,
yes,
I don't think I've done stuff to the extent that, but I've definitely done shitty things. You know what I mean? I've done very bad things in my life that, hurt people or hurt myself, or, just out of spite or vindictive or shitty personality traits or whatever it is. I try not to do them now, and I learn from them and all that kind of stuff, but equally, that's not an excuse to go, we've all fucked up, so it's all right, you can be, a paedophile if you want. That's not what I'm saying either. I don't have an answer to it. Yeah.
The Crowley thing was on my mind again, because I know you're doing the
retreat.
Is that public knowledge? Can that be spoken about, the Alan Chapman lectures? Well, it is now. He's doing these lectures, people are doing them.
Yeah.
So it was just on my mind again, because I know you guys were going to be talking about the Book of the Law, and and one part of me is like, oh yeah, sure. They went off to Egypt, and it was channeled. I can't say that word. Channeled.
Yeah. English channeled
to him by his HGA, by IWAS, Crowley's HGA. But the other side of me is like, no, it's the ramblings of two fucking heroin addicts off their heads in Egypt, is what it is.
Yeah.
So the Crowley one is a real hard one for me, because I think Telema is a good idea, and the kind of path to enlightenment through Telema is good and wholesome, and it's great for personal development to make you a good person. But Aleister Crowley was Aleister Crowley, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, an awful lot of the things that are said about them isn't necessarily true, but the bits that are true are pretty shit. The thing, I suppose, with all of this is to follow his own advice, or I think it's in the Book of Law, is let success be thy proof. Where is that it's not to take it at its own word, is that it has to in some way speak truth to you, or it has to, you have to find it within it rather than just accepting it. It's not. It's like, say, take the Bible, where it said, this is the the word of God, and it is because I say so, and then you have to accept it. It's more, if you find the word of God within this, or whatever it is, if you find thing, then it's
go
good.
with it.
That's the thing. So all of those things, but then there's the other bit of it. Go on.
No, I saw a good quote from him during the week. I'm just kind of looking for it quickly now. I don't see it anywhere handy. And he was saying that daily practice is the most important thing you can do. That's it. It's not about how many books you've read. It's not about what you know. It's not a competition of how much you know about Goetia and paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But he was just saying just do your meditation and your yoga. That's what you need to be doing. You don't need a million books on Telema or Goetia.
Yeah, and it's the thing that Alan Chapman talks about in their Magia teaching, where he's going the worst thing about any of this kind of spiritual whatever, it's the proper word, I can never settle on it, outlook, is that it's it's a great place for narcissists, because you get to talk about yourself and your problems all the time, and it's a great kind of,
and sure, look, you can fall into traps fairly easily. Like me and you, we have far too many books. We have. I've enough books now to read. Literally, I have enough books to keep me reading now until next April or May.
Yeah, I had enough books to keep me reading 5 years ago, probably.
But still, I bought the I Ching thing, and it's still in the car, not even opened. I'll get to it eventually, but I'm just like.
But this is the spiritual chasing, or the attainment chasing, or the state chasing thing. And my book, we see, I have two kind of book addictions. I want to, I enjoy books and I enjoy collecting them. The aesthetics of them. So That's one thing. The other thing is I'm hoping that this next book is the one that gets me, that tells me the secret, that gets me over the thing. And then essentially that is the state chasing, because you go, you know, you get to, oh, it didn't right. Where's the next one? Is it the I Ching? Is that it? Is that the one that's going to get me to the next
dragon,
one? Yeah.
It was a good thing I saw from, what was his name? Carl Sagan, a short little 10-second video. And he says that, you know, if I was to read a book a week for the entirety of my life, 70 years or something, and he's walking through beside some library bookcases, and he says, if I was, and then that would be about 10,000 books or something, he says. And then he says, I've already passed that many books walking here.
Yeah.
He says, it's not about reading lots of books. It's about finding the right books.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So
this is kind of why I'm
sometimes
struggling.
You have to read a book to find the books.
Well, yeah, but this is why I struggle with the Kingsley books, because I'm still not convinced by him that he's the one true person who knows everything about Empedocles and Parmenides. I got their names right. Like, ooh.
Yeah, well done.
Do you know, because, like, you know, if you've had scholars for 2,500 years saying one thing, and then he comes along with another thing. He's not the only person who says this, but if he comes along with this thing and he's like, well, I'm right, they're all wrong. Like, well, hell on now, man. There's 2,000 years of scholarship before you who say this, and you say the completely opposite. Are you sure you're right?
Well, I know exactly where you're coming, because I have the same.
You understand what I mean? Like,
absolutely,
I'm not saying he's wrong.
I know.
I do think he is onto something.
Yeah,
but
I do have the same with him in that. But my problem is that I am not a scholar and I don't know how it works, and so that I can't tell if his scholarship is good, convincing or not. But people I know who do know things, who are aware of that, say it is. So I can either trust that or I don't, you know. And again, but but the problem I had with Peter Kingsley is I never heard of Parmenides or Empedocles before Peter Kingsley, and so when an awful lot of his books where he's going, and everyone has said this, but it's wrong, I'm going, I don't care, because I didn't hear that in the first place. Just tell me. But he can't, because the scholarship type of thing is that idea of you say what happened before, what other people said, and then you prove them wrong, and then. Or you say why they're wrong.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
I don't know if you have to, though, because I'm reading the Thomas Berry book, and he doesn't do that.
But is it a scholarly work? Is it an academic work, the Thomas Berry book? Is that how it's been
it's not fiction.
No, but I mean, there is a difference between non-fiction and academic.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, it's not an academic book then, I suppose. No, it's not. Yeah. He says some very similar things to Kingsley, because I watched what are the two films I watched with Kingsley over the weekend?
Spirit of the Depths, is that one number? Spirit of the...
Let me find it. What do we have this saved under? Surprisingly, under Peter Kingsley. The Great Speakers.
Oh, yeah.
And Spirit of the Depths. Yeah.
The one, the Great Secret is the Come Down from the Mountain one, isn't it? That one. That.
Come Down from the Mountain, yeah. He's so miserable. I mean, you just want to give him a hug and say, it's going to be okay.
And that's the worst about that is that's not him in his miserable mode. He gets way more miserable than that. Like when you get the catafalque, if you ever do get the catafalque, that's it's not miserable.
So one of those is about, I think it is The Great Secret. No, Spirit of the Depths is about catafalque.
Yeah.
He talks about this, and I've said this to you before, but I want to talk about it publicly as well. It's hilarious. There's a part in Spirit of the Depths where he's talking about to learn the Red Book, Carl Jung's Red Book. He had to go to the knife edge between sanity and insanity. Just like Carl Jung. Carl Jung did this. He was at the precipice of it and staring into the abyss of madness, but was able to pull himself out of it. So Peter Kingsley claims to write this catapult book, and I believe him, that he also had to do this and really go to the bottom of the depths of the worst parts of his soul to really understand this book, right? And like he said, you shouldn't be laughing, but he says like at one stage he was like going to come downstairs to the wife and say, look, bring me an ambulance, take me away, bring me to a padded room, you know. That's not the bit I was laughing about, though. But he goes on then and he says that, you know, it's okay to have psychology, depth psychology, Jungian psychology. And indeed, I went to who I was told was the foremost Jungian psychologist in England. And so I went along and I told him I had this dream, and this dream involved me going to a mountain, and there was a man with an ice pick, and he was looking at me and saying, "Get down off the mountain, Peter Kingsley." So what does that mean? What does that mean? And I had to think about what it meant. And I said this to my Jungian psychologist, and my Jungian psychologist said, "Well, you have daddy issues, don't you?" And he said, "Okay, well, maybe I do have daddy issues, but what does the dream mean? You have daddy issues." Yeah, but okay. And then I came back a week later, and we also spoke a bit about the dream.
That's not right, quite right, though. That's not quite it. It's that he didn't. The Jungian psychologist didn't want to hear about his dream and just wanted to hear about his father. It wasn't that he said that he'd listened to the dream and that he had father issues, and that was his point. He says that Jung put so much emphasis on dream analysis, but even when he went to the best Jungian he could find, they had no interest in dreams. That's his point. It's not that he wasn't accepting the analysis of what the dream was.
But if the best psychologist, you have daddy issues, and then you're like, yeah, but I want to talk about my dreams. No. You have daddy issues, but my dreams, please. I want to talk about you have daddy issues, you fucking weirdo.
Yeah, but that's again. I mean, I don't know because I wasn't there. But Jung would also probably have not accepted what that Jungian said either. So that's the thing to keep. Like he had at that point had said that no one had listened to what he said or no one was doing right. So I think Kingsley may be coming from that point of view. Well, he did. I mean,
man. I'm not buying it.
What Jung said.
You know.
So you don't believe what?
No, I'm not buying what Kingsley said. No, I would trust the psychologist in that situation where the psychologist is like, you have daddy issues. Fuck your dream. We need to talk about your dad.
But he didn't say you have daddy issues. He just wouldn't listen to him about the dream and said, will you tell me about your father? I want to talk to you about your father. It wasn't that he thought he had daddy issues. He just wanted to get to his father.
That's the starting point, man. That's the starting point. And we can do dreams in 6 months, but we need to sort out your father issues first because you obviously have them.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that psychology. I don't know anything about Peter Kingsley's life. But
me either. But I mean, if you go to a psychologist and they're like within the first few minutes, he's like, you have daddy issues. Okay, cool, thanks, fix me.
Yeah. I don't know because the first two therapists I went to got me very wrong. I got what I wanted to talk about and all that very wrong. And it was only when I got to the third one that it kind of unfolded properly. And then COVID, so I didn't get to finish it. But I wouldn't just because someone's is known for something or has trained in something. I don't think necessarily that means that they know everything about everyone.
What did you say? But if you went to the doctor and the doctor said, yeah, well, you need Ventolin inhalers. But, I don't know, doctor.
No, that's different. It's like I went to the doctor about the thing with my eye and it was over a case of 7 or 8 months and they couldn't fix it because they were assuming it was something else. Because they were assuming it was my father, but I wanted to talk about my dreams. No, and so if you had went in
down from the mountain.
If you had went in and just said, well,
this dog is howling here. Dog, what's wrong with you? Hold on, let him out.
Yeah, he wants to come down from the mountain.
Dog. Go on, out you go, Hector. Out you go. Go on, see you.
Dog called Hector. That's a cool name for a dog.
Anyway, Hector. Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Sorry,
I mean,
Tommy,
I do know your point.
I
completely know the point, and it's a thing that in a different kind of situation, it's like not accepting the scientific, the scientist or the person who's actually studied it, their opinion over it. Like, I mean, that's so prevalent in society, and I mean, that's where most of our trouble is at the minute. In that people have decided that their unqualified opinion is equal or more likely greater than the the scientist. But it was kind of because I was talking to this about my mum yesterday, and it was just because she finds a hard time believing anything because there's so much conflicting information, and she can't tell the difference between who she's meant to believe and who she isn't. And I was going, well, believe the people who actually do it. She goes, yeah, but they lie all the time. And I goes, yeah, that's true. But so I was going to go whatever the highest percent. And it just kind of got to the point of going, I don't know what the answer is because I know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like that whole thing of, that whatever the Canadian judge, I think it was Canadian judge. It could be an apocryphal story anyway. He goes, porn was brought in and he had to make some ruling. He goes, I don't know what porn is, but I know when I see it. And yeah, we all understand that. I can't define it, but know what it is. So it's like, I would hope that, Alan Chapman talks about the whole thing of that when you see truth, that it kind of, it presents itself in a different way in that you can recognize it. I'm not sure that's true, I'm not sure it's probably true, but I'm not sure it's as easy as that, in that we can fool ourselves into many different things. And we've talked a million times about pendulums and how you're in different types of, you can't see things because of, it's like if you're a jealous person, you only see your wife talking to prospective lovers or whatever is the thing, even though they're just talking, I don't know, to the milkman or whatever, which, whatever. Maybe
God, we have a lot of milkmen.
Why is there so many milkmen coming to this house? Get me my telephone book. But it's just, but the thing, so I don't know what the answer is other than, particularly around vaccines and stuff like that, we should probably listen to the experts on it. But I understand people's trepidation around it, absolutely, because of things as simple as this week toast gives you cancer, next week toast cures you from cancer. But that's more scientific shitty journalism, that whatever that's popular scientism journalism, whatever, there's a word for that kind of thing, where it's or you hear this thing, it'll be, and they've cured, I don't know, they've cured big ear disease, and then you read it, well, they haven't. What they've actually cured is small ear disease in certain type of rodents, and only 2 of them, the other 5 died. And you go, right, well, what's that headline about? It's that clickbaity type thing. So I completely understand why Peter Kingsley should have listened to a psychologist in that thing, but I also understand his point, is that what annoyed him was that I went to you because you're meant to be the foremost expert in dreams, and that's why I'm here, and you have no interest in them. So I can see.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of caught by, because we've spoken about him before, about this kind of, I mentioned it in connection with Chapman as well, about this, because they have this kind of post-colonial, another word I can't say, post-colonial upbringing, that they have this different view of the world and say what us, the underlings, the slaves had, so we're the underdogs. But so I just kind of saw this, that like honestly I saw it and I just laughed.
Arrogance. Yeah.
You went to the best psychologist. Yeah.
And that is the thing,
best psychologist in the land.
Yeah. It took me a long.
And he told you what was wrong with you, and you didn't listen.
It took me a long while to get past his arrogance, Peter Kingsley.
And
I'm not fully past it, but it's that, as I said, and I said to anyone who hasn't read Kingsley when asked about it, because you learn, the books are as much about Peter Kingsley as they are about Empedocles or Parmenides or Jung, and not in that it's autobiographical, in that just how he presents it and how he talks and how his disdain for scholarship and for people says as much about him.
His dad must have been a teacher, man. His dad had to have been a teacher.
Or a priest.
It's just like he has this thing where he has to impress and he has to prove other people wrong. It's textbook daddy issues, like. Yeah. Textbook.
But it's like, I mean, it's but it's like, it's still, some of the stuff, I do really like him though, but it took me, I know where you are with him, because I was definitely there. I did struggle with it, and I do struggle with
well, look,
I struggle with the.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I struggle with the whole kind of notion of Peter Kingsley infallibility as well, which people seem to have around him, that he can say nothing wrong, and even if he does say something wrong, then that's him having meatus and trying to you're just not understanding it, or you're not seeing it, and that kind of thing of where every time you read the book, you learn something new. We can see that about every book. Every single book, because if you read a book and then you come back a year later, you're a different person. It's not, that's not a unique thing to Kingsley, and I think sometimes that can be used as a kind of a badge of showing how progressed I have become spiritually. Is I've reread reality and now I understand it. Oh, good, yeah. Same word. I reread it recently as well.
You were too fucking ticked to understand it the first time, were you?
But here's my thing. I reread reality recently. Recently, and I go, oh yeah, well, I don't know what to make of that, because it's the same book I read last year. I've obviously not progressed at all. I'll just keep my mouth shut and I'll go, yeah, no, it's the same book. I don't know what to tell you.
See, but look, Tommie, you know yourself, this is a problem in occultism. Like, some people take too much of it too seriously. Yeah. And okay, look, it's cool to know what the where the origins of Western civilization are. It's good information. It's good to know. It's not going to come up in a family game of Trivial Pursuit at Christmas or anything, but like it's nice to know.
unless you unless you make it. What is the capital of France? Did you know? Just every answer is Empedocles. Empedocles. No, it's a horse racing question. Yeah, Empedocles. Grand
Who
National.
left the golden shoe behind Who left the golden shoe on Mount Etna as he killed himself to get away from his legions of fucking obsessive followers? Yeah. Alan Chapman, Empedocles, or Peter Kingsley?
Are they all the same person?
Tommie Kelly. Yeah, but this, I don't know. No, look. To be honest, after watching these two films, the door is more open now to reading his stuff because I like him more. Not I like him more, but maybe I do like him more. No, it's not about liking him really. It's about liking the idea that he's getting at. And I think finally now it clicked for me what he means by Western civilization, because I've struggled with this for ages.
Yeah. Right, well, explain then, because then that'll be helpful for me too. Because
for me, what Western civilization is basically globalization. It's the world now as we live in. The world is a Western world now. China is a little bit different, but it's still fairly capitalist. North Korea and maybe Russia are a bit different, but still Russia is still quite capitalist. I suppose what the meaning I got from it is that Western culture is having this kind of a very logical outlook about doing things in your life. I do this and this will happen. I do this and this will happen. And this happened because of this. And this all comes from Empedocles, because he was the father of modern logical thinking. Plato said this, Socrates has said this, yada yada. Or was he? Yeah. And so this then has gone into other aspects of our culture that weren't the same before. So around that time, art changed to being more logical than about feeling. Other art forms changed as well to be like this. Like we went from everything was poetry before that, and then became prose because it had to show more logic rather than just feeling. Because poetry was more feeling and finding the meaning between the lines kind of thing. So I got that. I finally got that, and I was able to rest with it, because I've been wrestling with it for ages about like, okay, well, what the fuck is Western civilization? Because like I'm from a Celtic civilization, and that's different. And then there's like Scandinavians, that's different as well. And there's the Germanics, that's also different. Like, how are we all this one thing? And we are all this one thing, but only now because of what happened back then with Greek society and how that kind of way of thinking and way of being spread across other things, But like without this kind of formal logicism, I would say, we wouldn't have things like how our economies work, or how even like history is taught in school and stuff like that. It's like X plus Y equals B because X plus Y equals B, or X equals X, Y equals Y, and when we put them together we get this, and World War II happened because of this.
Which leads to the myth of progress as well, that we're going somewhere, where it's exponential. That
we're going somewhere. Now, comparing him to that Thomas Berry book is quite different with Kingsley, because Kingsley has this kind of idea that Western civilization is it's almost like, well, he says it's an organism that's alive and it extracts and contracts, and he thinks we're coming to an end of it. But Thomas Berry in his book is like, well, actually, Western civilization has, well, he doesn't spell it out quite like that, but this is the way I read it. Western civilization has failed a few times already, but it has came back.
Okay.
One of the biggest failures was the plague.
Okay.
Because after the plague, that was one of the kickstarters for the scientific revolution, because people went, oh fuck, there's this thing that they thought it was the rats. There's this disease that rats have. We have to find out what that is. We have to, so many people don't ever die again. So that was one thing, and it was one kind of revolutionary new way of thinking came about because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's other stuff as well, like the religious wars and all that kind of stuff. He says that was a point where Western civilization also broke because what had been working just did a 180. And there was these huge, big, long wars for ages all across Europe. And then it had to rebuild itself then after that. So like that's kind of my other thing, Western civilization, is that it's not one thing. It can't be one thing because it has, like, even like the revolutions of, say, the French Revolution started. You know, that was the end of a type of civilization as well, because it brought democracy, or republican democracy, to, we hadn't had that since the Greeks, you know. And so that's also another type of kind of fall. So with Kingsley thing about, like, his thing is that it started with Empedocles and it's dying now. I don't know. I think it's died a good few times but just keeps reinventing itself.
Yeah, even in Ion, Carl Jung talks about, like, the, you know, kind of the age, you know, and he has two distinct ages between, you know, times between, say, Jesus, which is the first half, which is the fish, and then, you know, the second half, which is like the equivalent of the Antichrist, where we'll become more rational, more scientists, and that ends on the 21st of December this year. You know, woohoo! Let's see what happens then.
Oh, cool.
Ish. It depends what way you want to read it. Boyo reckons it's the 21st of December. But yeah. So I mean, they're like ebb and flows and kind of things. But I suppose it's a bit like the kind of fallacy we had around the Mayan calendar, right? In that we thought that it's was the 12th of December 2012, whatever it was. But it's like no. The next day it just starts again. You know what I mean? No, it's just, it's like saying, 31st of December, that's it. Oh no, we have 1st of January again. It's okay, you know, it's fine. It's not actually. It's just that the actual calendar you have, the calendar you have on your table, just ends there. But like, you could say the same though, like say the Roman Empire or whatever, and then that it's gone and it kind of fades away. But it was, you know, nothing. You know, it's still society. But that's a whole epoch or a whole eon that came and went within anything. And I think that's more what Kingsley is pointing to. That it's you know, within the great thing of, say, you would have certain things like Barry was saying about the plague, you have the Roman Empire, you have blah 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 blah. But that entire manifestation or projection or whatever, there's that entire kind of spell is probably, in Kingsley's view and Jung's view, coming to an end now. That entire ebb and flow thing. Like, I don't know, you know, I think that, but I think that's what it is.
Well, I mean, Barry's argument towards the end of the book is that, like, we can break this cycle, because if there is ebbs and flows and things not even ebbs and flows, things happen in cycles. It just happens and happens and happens, and we're not really learning from history. But his argument is like, okay, well, with anything, you know, cycles can be broken, and his argument is like, this is the moment. And even though every generation has this, like, we are the ones who can fucking change history, who can. But he's saying no, but like, we can, like, we have this opportunity where we can break the cycle, start a new age, where we're not ruining the planet and we're living with the planet, you know, because humanity's fucked. The earth isn't fucked. Humanity's fucked. Unless we pull our fingers out of our arses, you know. So interesting that they have two slightly different approaches. Kingsley thing is, you know, we should tend to a dying body. While Barry's is, okay, no, let's not do that. Tending to a dying body. Let's not die. You know, let's seize the opportunity and become better human beings. So I have to go with Barry on that. Sorry for being an optimist.
The kind of, I suppose, and I've mentioned this before, is the problem, or not the problem, the thing that you have to be kind of aware of, that is that whole thing of the dying, that I said before, that Kingsley talks about the dying man wanting to have his cat in his lap. And he wasn't allowed to have the cat in the lap because that was an acceptance of his death, and therefore he didn't get to die the way he wanted to. So so that's the kind of thing you have to be concerned about, that if it is a case that Kingsley's right and we should tend to the dying person, doing what Barry says is not allowing the dying person to have his best friend on his lap as he died. Yeah. And so you know, you know, but it's like,
who's right?
Yeah, you know, because it could, like, okay, but you know, that's the whole thing. Well, let's not just give up, but also, if we are fucked, let's do it the best possible way we can, you know. But I don't know. I would hesitate to not hesitate. I would kind of have a feeling that if I was to side with Barry, it would be more out of a fear or of it, actually, it's like a fear of death or something like that you just kind of don't want to look at it, maybe, or I don't want to look at it. I'm only speaking for myself. But that would be my fear around that I just don't want to look at the darkness. But with the Kingsley, my fear is that I can't accept the light. That Catholic guilt or whatever it is, that I'm just a shit person. I only deserve darkness. We deserve to die, and we're all fucking bad people.
Well, look, I'll put it this way with Barry. Barry's kind of thing is like a bit like one of the Native American things. Is that like just it's not that hard, lads. Just leave the planet in a better place than when you found it. It's like when you go for a picnic in the park. Clean up after yourself. Leave the place nicer than when you got there.
But the problem with all of this is that none of us, it's, industrial. The things that we've known control, or we can have all paper straws all we want, but it's making no difference.
This other than
you can't have your milkshake because it falls apart.
This is his biggest argument in the book, is that like industrialists, it's not even government's fault at this stage. It's the industrialists. It's completely everything's at their door, and we need a revolution against these corporations and industrialists to kind of bring them into line and to cop onto themselves. Like what he's talking is fucking fairly revolutionary. He's like we shouldn't have we should only live locally, and we should only buy our products locally, and everything should be made locally and stuff like that. And like you can see in some countries they do this, like in Austria, as much as is possible, everything that can be constructed or made is made in Austria, to keep it within Austria. And it's not a nationalism thing. It's to make sure that we keep our country good and strong. What's
wrong with you today?
Economically wise, and stuff like that. Slovakia tries to do it as well. Czech Republic tries to do it as much as possible as well. But like, obviously, people are going to get on the fucking Alibaba on the internet and buy cheap Chinese shit. But like, as best they can, they make sure that as much of their industry is as homegrown as possible. Like Poland doesn't do this. Like Ireland.
Yeah.
Poland and Ireland will outsource to fucking anyone. Who is willing to they will just bend over backwards for Facebook and
but we also give away all these resources as well. Like you've loaded gas. Here, have it. We don't need it. Go on,
here's Shell. Hello, Shell. Wait, no, sorry, excuse me. Which is the worst petroleum company? Shell. Shell. We'll have you. Can you? Will you please have all our gas?
And will you condescend to us then online on Twitter and stuff about us using plastic straws while you dump oil into the ocean? And stuff like that. Is that possible? Could you do all of that? Great, we're on board. Where do I sign? And no money, please. We don't want any of the money. You have it all. You have it all. Ridiculous.
Exactly. But I will say that on the other hand, Ireland compared to Poland, people do stay more locally than in Ireland. Like, Jesus Christ, I have aunties and uncles in Ireland who are like, oh yeah, we drove down to Waterford to buy a new suite of furniture. We saved £75. And how much did the petrol? 50. Oh, so you saved 25. Okay, nice one. Why? So I mean, like, when you drove 45 minutes.
It was a lovely day out. It was a lovely day out, Spud. Lovely day. We had a great.
Stop for ice cream, fish and chips. Yeah, that was 25 euros. Okay, so you save nothing.
No, it actually cost you £10. Yeah,
wanted a day out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so look, so that's my update on Peter Kingsley. I'm struggling with him less, and now I know all I need to do is find €1,000 so I can buy his books.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. I think I paid 80 quid for Catafalque. It's a big. If you keep an eye on it, they go up and down, they fluctuate on Book Depository. I got Magic Mish, that the first one ever that is, for €40, and it's like it goes up to €55, and Catafalque, I've seen it around 66
euros now on German Amazon was €66 last night.
Yeah. Don't pay 66.
Crazy.
No, I can't. It's a print on demand book. It's definitely cost no more than £8.
We were talking about this last week. The price of books. I can't justify that much money on a book. I can't. As much as I love reading and nerding up on stuff, I can't justify that type of money on a book. I just can't.
I think the most I ever paid for a book.
When I'm rich.
I was probably the Satanic Bible hardback. I think that was... No, I'm a liar. I'm an absolute liar. It's the big blue Thelema one. I paid £100 for that one. Yeah. Oh, well, there it is. My shelf, gathering dust.
Mad bastard on the shelf, gathering dust, just doing nothing. Dead weight. But at least it's not rent, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose it's like I thought it would have the secret, and then it didn't. So I had to buy another book. maybe the next one will have the secret. Yeah. Are we going to talk about this?
We'll do this film.
Yeah. I've watched it 3 times now.
Well, I mean,
we
set homework for people. Sorry, I set homework for people, and people actually listened to me and did it. Yeah. Apologies.
I have watched it 3 times now, and I was thinking after I watched it, I would still struggle to probably tell someone what it's about. I'm finding it hard to retain this documentary. I think it's because I know so much of it and don't know an awful lot, and then the bits I don't is kind of, you're hit, but you just go, what? But yeah, right. So I'm going to let you lead this conversation and hope that my brain can in some way add some sort of.
do you know this fella? The director James Fox. Had you come across him before?
Yeah, I'd seen some of his other ones, his other documentaries. I know what I've seen or something, and there's 2 versions of it. One which is like a TV, History Channel, not History Channel, some sort of equivalent. And then he obviously did well enough that I went, right, I'm going to make a better documentary about it. So we've seen that. But other than that, no, I don't know him. There's a couple of YouTube interviews with him and stuff like that. He seems like I don't know. He seems like the type of person who would make UFO documentaries. If that's fair, he's not. It's not surprising given his kind of.
You mean like our friend Jeremy?
Jeremy, he's an odd case. He's a distinct case.
Yeah. So this opens with the New York Times article. The New York Times website releasing those videos that we've all seen by now of the U.S. Navy pilots.
Tic Tacs, is that what
intercepting or seeing this? Seeing these Tic Tacs. So there's a funny thing on the IMDb page. It says that it has director James Fox. Stars Bill Clinton. Like, what? Bill Clinton's in this.
He is in it.
He's like his pictures in it for like a minute.
There's some stock footage of him.
Is he interviewed?
He is interviewed.
Yeah, there's stock footage of him. He's not in it. Yeah. Your man is in it. The Pizzagate guy. What's his name?
Podesta. Podesta.
Yeah, Podesta's in it, and he's been in like some Ancient Aliens stuff as well over the last.
Clinton is interviewed in.
Actually,
sorry. Clinton is in other ones, though. I have seen him interviewed. Yeah, I have seen him interviewed in different documentaries around this thing. I think we've a slight delay between our Zoom. This is why we're kind of talking a bit more over each other.
Right. Clinton must be trying to do cleanup because he knows the whole Epstein thing. He's fucked over, so he's trying to be as cool as possible, maybe. No, I wrote down this thing about Jack Valet is in it, and Jack Valet was in a recent documentary we watched with the guy in Argentina as well. I don't remember the name of it, but that was a really good documentary. And like once you see like Jack Valet is like the yin to the yang of Linda Moulton. Because once you Linda Moulton. I wrote that down. That's a good one. Because, if you see Jacques Vallée in a documentary about aliens, you can just go, yeah, this is legit. This is good.
This is cool.
This has the weight of science and the weight of research behind it. But when you see her, and you say, oh no, it's over. It's just ruined when she comes into it.
It was like the Skinwalker Ranch. It was like, this is great. Yeah, this is great. Oh no, here's Linda Moulton now. This is it. It's over.
I know. Any little sliver of credibility it had at all is just gone when you see her coming into it. You're just like, oh no, what are you doing? But Jack Valé's a legend, man.
Yeah.
He's fucking class. I love watching stuff about him on YouTube and all. He's fucking. I think he's the proper academic that this kind of UFOs and aliens encounters and all that. That's needed, And I think I don't know. Maybe he would be a bit better. It's wrong with me today. I think he'd be a bit better well known if he didn't have a French name, and an accent. Because Americans hate accents.
I have to recommend a book for you though, Spud, to add to your list. Passport to Magonia. That's his Jack Valé's big one. That's That's one you should have on your shelf. Yeah, it doesn't have the secret, and it's good at gathering dust on a shelf. But when you do read it, it's pretty good. It's just it's
interesting.
Yeah, some good accounts of stuff like properly correlated.
There's a really good. I thought there was something else interesting about this documentary, is that it had a huge write up in the Guardian, and it also had a big not big, but it had a review on CNN as well. I thought that was quite interesting, because you wouldn't usually see documentaries of this type given reviews. Okay, the Guardian maybe, because it could look at it from a film point of view, but it kind of more or less looks at this from a science point of view, and then seeing it on CNN, that's strange.
It's probably come out of the fact that the released, there was official videos released, so that has given it some sort of credence.
That's exactly it. On the CNN article, it goes into like, well, it's not really saying anything new, except it leads some weight to what it says because of these released papers that have been done of late, and because now that there are more and more kind of retired generals, soldiers, officials, and all that coming out and saying, shit in the 50s was mad, like, it was mental, and in the 60s. So because all that's coming out now, they're saying, okay, so this stuff is true. So now look, the documentary is really good. It's the same as you, Tommie. I said this last week as well. The problem with it is that there are times when you're hit too quickly with too much information, and you're trying to keep it all in. Yeah. And it's like, whoa, what? So this was in the 40s, then this is in the 50s, and then this is in the 60s, and then this is in the 20s, and all this, and you're just like, you're a bit overblown by it.
Yeah.
But just like with the CNN review and the Guardian review, is that like, what does kind of not change your mind, because I believe in all this stuff anyway, well, most of it, is that because these retired people are coming out and saying, it's stuff. Like there's a thing with one of the astronauts, and not Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell comes up a lot because he's the one who had this epiphany or moment of enlightenment when he was looking at the Earth above, and then he got into woo-woo and set up the, what's it called?
Noetics.
I can't think of that top of my head now. Yeah, Noetics, and which has done great work in releasing documented but hidden files about alien encounters and all this kind of stuff, and unidentified flying objects and all that kind of stuff. But then there's this other astronaut who had been interviewed before he went on any space missions, and they were testing jet flights, jet engines above Germany. And he was like, we used to run into stuff all the time. Like, I was up there, like when we would chase them, we would try and catch them and just not have a hope. We chased them as far as we could. And then the invisible border of Poland, which doesn't exist, would pop up, and you would hit that just like in a computer game. No, but they would chase them as far as they could. Yeah. And it was almost like the aliens would be playing with them. They'd play along for a while and then just shoot off, So like to have astronauts confirm stuff like that, that's pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But
and I mean, during World War II, there were
documentary shows as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, during World War II, they were so frequent that that's where Foo Fighter comes from. Like that's what they were termed as. So it's an interesting one.
It goes into stuff as well. So like, and we forget this unless you've watched like a good bit of stuff about Roswell, which I presume a lot of people have. I know you have, and I have as well. But like for a lot of people, I suppose they haven't really, but they might know kind of what Roswell was. But like Roswell at the time was in the local newspapers, then the national newspapers, then national television, and like the army and the navy and all these people get involved, and they're making official statements saying like, this probably was a UFO, and then 2 or 3 days later going, oh fuck, what have we done? We need to do some clean up PR. And that bit's kind of funny because it has the soldier who denied it first was like, look, go into that room and we're going to take photos of you beside some like tin foil and bits of shit from a balloon, and you have to say it is a weather balloon. He's like, yeah, okay, cool, because he's following orders. He doesn't have a fucking choice, like, because if he says no, he's going to get court-martialed or dishonorably discharged, and pension is fucked. So what choice do you have when you're in the army? So he goes along and does it, and then he's interviewed in the documentary. He's like, yeah, that was totally nothing. Had nothing to. Don't know what that was. I just did what I was told. I'm in the army, and. So and then it goes on to like there's this other farmer in 1952 or something. He got his camera out, took photos of this thing, and it was on the front page of Life magazine. So like until the 60s, UFOs were like this big public thing that was spoken about by everyone, and the army was involved, and they would give official statements. And then they kind of realized in the 60s, shit, we need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
We don't know what these things are. So like we can't be saying we're looking into it. So we're just going to say it's fucking swamp gas.
Yeah. The most ridiculous thing ever.
And that's and since then it's just been cover up over after cover up after cover up after cover up after cover up. And this is kind of where we find ourselves now until it's heaped up so much that they can't cover it up anymore.
The most interesting thing about it is the nuclear weapon thing, the silos and the turning off the nuclear weapons and putting them into launch sequences, blah blah blah. Which I was aware of that, but I wasn't aware of that it happened a number of times. I thought it was like an incident that happened, but it's a repeating thing where it's kind of going, we could shut you down, or we can fuck you up, at any second. And you would think that alone would. That alone would make a government have we have a kind of a national defense security issue here that we should look at, but that I assume they fucking did look at. Like, I mean, that's not that's just because they didn't publicly come out and go, they had to look at that. If there's something, even if it turned out to be like a mouse eating a wire in a nuclear silo or something, whatever it is, there had to be looked. There's no way that wasn't looked at. But it's kind of, we don't know what that is. Move along, And I understand that, because if you are in the middle of the Cold War and your tensions are high, everything's going to die. You have the whole duck and cover. You're teaching kids to get under their desks. That's going to save you from nuclear holocaust. It's the best we can do, kids. And you've all you don't want to add to. Not only do you have the pesky red Russians, at any time going to come and kill us, there's also these other things that we've no idea what they are, that fly around and can probably launch nuclear missiles when they want, or switch them off, so that we could be defenseless against the Russians, or we could also attack them. And just like, if you as a government member or someone who's in a position of authority, would you tell people? I don't think I would.
No, probably not. No. Yeah. But I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like I have this kind of utopian dream that like one day, the whole world can just join together and be one happy family, and then we can welcome the aliens down. We can all be friends. But like, why the fuck can't we all just get along? What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, imagine you're the alien and you're like, what are these fucking monkey idiots doing with nuclear bombs? Like, they haven't even learned. They've only just learned what their unconscious is.
Kind of.
And now they have nuclear fucking bombs.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And like, and now they have nuclear bombs. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, yeah, I think it'd be great if they just came down and says, you know what, lads, we're taking all your guns, all your knives that are sharper.
Yeah. Now you're a slave. That get into the freezers. Diana wants to eat you.
No, not that. No, I don't want to be that. But like, I don't know. I just kind of have this thing. What the fuck are we doing with nuclear weapons? We don't fucking need them. You know what I mean?
Well, isn't that the thing that they said? Like 1947 is an interesting year because it's also the year Crowley died. So there's kind of that has to be marked, and a number of other things. But it's also 2 years after we dropped 2 unneeded bombs on Japan. Which from
civilian cities, civilian targets.
Just
don't forget that.
In a kind of let's say in a vindictive move by the American government, but like that would obviously is the point where if we are to go with the whole alien UN, say the Starfleet thing went all right. Now we have to look at these guys. We have to because they can probably
look after
properly. But like you kind of go, well, what's the worst we can do? We can destroy ourselves. But like maybe there's something, I don't know. I just see if it's coming from a kind of perspective or a pendulum of 3D when there's definitely 4D, 5D, 6D to this universe that we were just we've no idea of whatever. So things, I suppose like a nuclear event probably looks really, really different from 60 than it does to, you know, like it's probably way more horrifying or something.
I suppose, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, maybe. But you know, like even like when you get on that train and start thinking about like, okay, like maybe there is this alien thing that kind of look over us and stuff like that. And then you're like, and also I have this thing with the dinosaurs. I'm getting there, Tommy. Bear with me. Tommy's making faces here. You know, and you think about, say, like occultism, monoism, non-duality, that there's this thing, this God that we can't quite contemplate. Like if you look at it from a Kabbalah thing, there's a God, there's gods,
yeah,
but they're all part of God, the one God. But then there's like the one huge big God, Kether God, but he's like too profound for us really to think about, you know. And what does Alan Chapman say? We are shadows who. Oh, what is this?
Oh, the God's casting shadows in the eternity,
time,
or whatever it is. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I mean that's a nice idea, but I'm like, okay. So we've only been around what 200,000 years, and we've come up with these things to make ourselves feel better. Like dinosaurs were around for millions of years. They didn't have any of this. Like, you know,
that we know
and
of.
then like
that we know
like,
of.
okay,
We don't know
like,
the dinosaur religion
that we know of. Well, look, maybe they had Apollo churches or whatever. I don't fucking know. But like, I wonder was the Cuchulainn of fucking dinosaur mythology. I wonder, was he like a T-Rex or a Brontosaurus? He would have been a T-Rex, surely. Velociraptor. What was Hercules? Anyway, no, but if there is this federation of fucking aliens who look after the fucking solar systems and all this weird thing, and then they're going to be like, you fucking idiots with your Kabbalah, what the fuck are you talking about? We made
much
you
better
as
maps.
our plaything.
Yeah, but there is always that. Like, I mean, and even in kind of our own kind of scriptures, like the Hindu, certain Hindu scriptures, like Krishna, whatever, we are here as the playthings of the God, here for the enjoyment of Krishna. So, I mean, there's precedent in our own kind of consciousness for things like that. But the other thing I suppose to think of as well, if there is like a great white brotherhood, white in the, not in the racist sense, UFO.
Did you just say white is right?
Knee deep in that racist river. So if there is an equivalent of the good guys UFO, then you know, Starfleet thing, then there's probably a bad one as well. There's a great book, The Three Body Problem, written by Chinese
Klingons from Uranus.
Yeah. It's a trilogy, three body problem. I can't remember what the other ones are, but it's really interesting, and I can't talk about it without spoiling it, because the main kind of crux of it happens late into the series. But it gives a great reason for you know, that paradox. I can't remember his name is, of why, you know, we haven't found aliens or whatever. You know, that there's that very famous one that there's three reasons for. But anyway, there's it's like the equivalent of Jung's answer to Job is you know, this Chinese Zhongli Zhu, whatever his name is, his answer to that, and it's horrifying. It's horrifying. So you should check that out. It's really good. It's a very long book. It's a very thing. But I don't know.
What's it called? I didn't catch it. You jumped there.
Sorry.
Jumped out there.
The Three Body Problem is the first one.
Okay.
It's really, really good. Yeah, I don't know where I feel about the UFO thing. I'm undecided on nuts and bolts. Is you know, spacecraft from another world in the very Starfleet kind of, you know, warp speed propulsion engines type thing, which seems to be, I don't know, that's kind of based on a very, you know, not carbon neutral type system of getting around the universe, which I assume that, you know, forward thinking aliens would have already, you know, they're there up on the Enterprise with their you know, their paper straws. They have it sorted. You know, the representative of Shell is at the table. Data's eyeing him suspiciously. So I don't know if that, or it's the interdimensional thing, or if it's, you know, a manifestation of you know, consciousness, or, you know, is it just like, I can definitely get behind the thing that if there is beings in the universe that have evolved, you know, if we are an evolving universe, it seems, you know, at least that's our current perspective, then there's quite likely beings that have evolved higher than us somewhere in the universe. That seems a fairly decent thing to propose or believable. So if so, and you have to, you know, what would they be conscious of or able to do it seems unlikely that it's going to be a nuts and bolt type ship, given how the small bit we know about consciousness and non-locality, blah, 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 blah. Which, if that's the case, then what are the UFOs? Why did it look like nuts and bolts things? And why did it keep changing, given the kind of popular culture that's going on Earth at the time, where it's cigar-shaped, to saucers, to things that look a bit like drones, which now you may forget about UFOs because it's just, everything's going to be drone, and, they would have to change shape again to... in order to distinguish themselves, which, so that might be something to look out for. I don't know. And then the other thing is, I don't know.
Flying vaginas.
Is it, what a sight to behold.
For a punk band, actually. The Flying Vaginas.
Yeah, so a Russian punk band that's been put in prison for feminist ideals. So I don't know. Like, where are you on the?
You better call this podcast the Flying. Vagina. So you get banned from YouTube.
Banned from YouTube. Yeah. So are you nuts and bolts man? Are you interdimensional? A bit of both? Are you what's your where do you land?
I think it's like Futurama. Futurama. They were asking the professor one time how does he make the Planet Express so fast, and he says, well, Planet Express doesn't travel; it brings the universe to itself.
Yeah.
Whoa. So yeah, I'd say that's how it's done, man. They were watching episodes of Futurama up on Uranus and went, yeah, that's what we'll invent this. And I don't know. I haven't really thought about that much, other than to think like it's pretty stupid to think that there's not life out there. I mean, like, look at the amount of life that's on this planet. Like, you can scratch moss off the bark of a tree and you can kill 100 bugs.
Yeah.
That's how much life is on this planet. Like, and if you're saying that, like, this one tiny little planet and there's so many tiny little species and massive species in the sea that we don't know too much about, small ones obviously as well. Of course, there's life elsewhere, and I don't know. But like, I also kind of can't shake the feeling that there is a kind of element of Prometheus as well, that we were put here because we're quite different than everything else. But then Brian Cox comes out with the thing. Wasn't it Joe Rogan was saying to him, no, the octopus, they can't be from here. And he's like, well, the octopus has 85% of the same DNA as us. So it is from here. It is from here. Yeah. So obviously we are from here, but like,
isn't the kind of modern main kind of theory is the panspermia theory, isn't it? That we arrived from
panspermia thing.
So it's basically we were seeded from, some sort of life got on an asteroid and landed here, say, is one kind of way of looking at it. The other is that it's directed panspermia, which is that it was, deliberately this asteroid with, mushrooms on it, whatever it was. It
could have just been a message in a bottle. Did you ever hear about there was one of the islands off Scotland, I don't think it was the Orkneys, but it was one of the other ones, and for hundreds of years the only communication way they had with the mainland was to send them messages in bottles.
Right.
And one year in the 1800s, it would have been around the time, I suppose, the Irish potato famine is when they were having difficulties with famines as well in this little island. And like, it got so bad with their food that they couldn't use like animal manure to fertilize their their crops. They had to start using human manure. All right. And so then they started getting sick, this dysphoria and all these diseases associated with poo. And so they would just go down to the beach and they would launch hundreds of bottles with messages, send help.
Wow.
And luckily one found its way to the mainland and help was got, and a good few of them were saved. It's fucking mad. Like,
that's mad.
It's not that long ago.
Right.
It's only 100 and so many years ago. People used to, so like, this could be a thing that like just fucking some alien somewhere, like Superman, the planet is dying, everyone's fucked, and they just start putting little bits of jizz on fucking rocks, launching them into fucking space. Doing sex magic on asteroids.
Well, that's the thing, like, isn't it? Like, so here's the thing. I've often thought about this, and it's so if you the way in like sympathetic magic, or in you kind of collect the attributes of a god, say, or whatever, but we can only collect the attributes of gods given the stuff, the materia that we have here on Earth. So if you got like a
Right.
meteorite or something from another planet, would you be able to invoke a god that is not, naturally from here? And would that be an interesting type of?
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, I often thought about doing a
How
story
much
with
a
that.
meteorite on eBay?
Yeah, where you get
Frantically searching email.
you get a god that's like, yeah, my name's I'm Frank. I'm a shit god. I couldn't even save my own planet. So
Tommy Kelly brings about the end of planet Earth by fucking invoking from the planet Smash.
could be.
No, it's mad, but I was watching something last night about Hubble telescope. They directed Hubble into the darkest part of the known universe, and they pointed as a dead camera or our camera at it for 9 fucking years.
Right.
9 years this camera was just shooting constantly. It's like one long exposure for 9 years, like.
Right.
And it showed this one part of the screen is like, you see, like about the size of what your head is on your Zoom now.
Mm-hmm.
About something that's like that square. And they said, yeah, there's 10,000 galaxies within that, and within that 10,000 galaxies, there are probably 10,000 or 20,000 solar systems per galaxy. And like, it's ridiculous to think there's no one out there,
Well, it's a ridiculous to think there's no one out there. But people don't like that because that kind of... Well, number one, Christians don't like that because that means they're not the chosen people. So, let's not have that. So it's a kind of... if you...
But like...
Are we the center of the universe? No, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. But I'm the idiot optimist that I am. I'm like, if someone, if the house across the road from me is sold and you get some new neighbors in, like, I'll call over a few days later and say hello. I'll be like, if we knew that there were like cool, amazing aliens and they're in touch with us, be like, hey man, you want to go for a pint? Like, what's with all this? Like, we have to have weapons ready for fuck that, man. Let's just be friends with them.
Yeah, but that's because we think the aliens are going to be like us.
And then we can fall out with them. Like when they don't give us back the lawnmower after the 3rd week, then we can fall out with them.
Yeah.
And then we can start the passive aggressive stuff, Then the dog shit on their lawn, that kind of...
You let the dog shit in my moon again, did you? Yeah, so the phenomenon, I'd advise people to watch it. It's quite good. It's one of those things that if you've never come across UFOs before, you're going to be hit with an awful lot of new stuff. And if you have watched some UFO stuff before, you're still going to be hit with an awful lot of stuff. But it does go over all the kind of key points of the last 100 years of the phenomenon, So it's very good. Again, I as I said last week, someone has mentioned that the extra features.
We left out Iron Man. Do you remember there's an Iron Man guy in it?
I don't.
There's this nerd that Jack Valet meets, and Jack Valet has these bits of material he's found at crash sites.
All right.
And he brings it to this guy who thinks he's fucking wannabe Elon. You see, Elon Musk got COVID disease as well. Delighted for him.
Shocking.
Well,
4 tests, only 2 of them said he had COVID. So science, man.
Why do people like him? He's such an
I can't
arse.
stand him. Can't stand him.
But so this fella, he's like, we want to, because they have this material, and he sees that, like, he does the tests on it, and it's nothing from our periodic table, so it's obviously an alien. It's a crafted metal or alloy from stuff that we don't know what it's made from, and he's there like, I think that we can make new things for our planet. So you want to be Iron Man? That's what you want to do. It's all written. It's written all over his face, like, I am Iron Man. And then we didn't talk with the kids in Australia and in Zimbabwe. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Because there were these 2 schools that had very similar incidents, and the kids are out playing at lunchtime or whatever, and then a craft flies above them, and kids being amazing little animals that they are, like, cool, let's fucking chase it. And chase it into fields, chase it down. Like, imagine like fucking 200 or 300 kids chasing down this thing, and then the alien is like, oh cool, look at these little ants that are following me around, I'm gonna get out and say hello. And then like he beams telepathically stuff to them, and they all kind of get this message that, like, technology is gonna fuck us up, so be wary of it, I thought that was
says to
great.
being in the, you know, advanced technological craft, using advanced, you know, psi powers. Yeah. Stay away from the technology, kids.
Stay away from technology.
Yeah, it's like the stoner going, don't take drugs. Stay away from the drugs.
Yeah, it's like my dad, like when he was smoking. Don't ever.
Yeah.
Looks pretty fucking cool to me, man. You know, so I don't know. No, it is good. No, it is good. Exactly what you say, Tommie. You're bombarded a little bit too much by sometimes too much information. It's hard to hold it all in. But like, you know, the proof's in the pudding. Like, it's pretty much the documentary proves beyond any reasonable doubt. Like, there's stuff out there, and it's coming down to us to say hello every now and again. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I don't think he can doubt it anymore.
No, it's just it's
you know,
the conclusion you make from it is the only thing, you know. That's the only thing that it's still speculation, because you know, we don't know what it is, but it's something.
Do you still do the thing? What was the documentary? What was the documentary you watched? The Michael Greer one, where you're supposed to do meditation and
Stephen
invite
Greer.
the aliens.
No, geez, God knows, like he's
Stephen Greer. What did I call him? Michael Greer. Who the fuck is Michael Greer? Never heard of him.
Sounds like a saxophone player from the 80s. Michael Greer, in the heart of the matter.
Come down from the mountain.
Tell me about your saxophone.
Have you tried to do it since?
No. I kind of it seems a bit too much like an invocation or an evocation. It goes, probably not best to be messing with that kind of stuff unless you really want, you know, unless you're really doing it and doing it properly and stuff. And I'm not necessarily as much as optimistic as he is that they're necessarily, you know, benevolent, whatever that benevolent. Benevolent.
I would be. No, I think it'd be nice now.
What remotely in the history of your life would make you believe that anything is good? Have you been living here? Everything, Tommie. Yeah. Come on. Listen to that Rutger, what's his name, about humankind. It just change your mind about humanity's great. People are awesome. Just give them a chance. But not in big groups. Stay away from cities. Stay away from towns. You know, keep your group small. But no, I've been walking the dog here at night time because myself is sick at the minute. And like the stars, man, the stars here are fucking amazing. You can see it's just as soon as you look up, they're all there. It's every single one that's ever existed since the beginning of time. They're all there. You know? And it's just wonderful. And every now and again, I'm like, yeah, if you're there and you want to say hello, I'm here. You know, but nothing so far. But then again, they probably know that I'm not being what's the word? Totally honest, because like it obviously shit myself. You did see one. You had the opportunity. You had a UFO, and you were following it, and you had the opportunity to change your life by following it, and then you didn't.
That's different.
Why is it different?
The kids were in the car. It was different because that's something we saw on the road when we were driving. But I mean, like, if there was like something that came down, could you imagine like how freaky that'd be if something came down and materialized in front of you, like, "Hello, Spud." I don't know why you talk like fucking that either. Like, maybe you'd have a French accent. "Hey, hello, Spud. How are you today?" You know, whatever. Well, you're French. No, I'm not French. Everyone thinks I'm fucking French. I was like, okay, so what's the story here? Like, do I need to give you something? Do you want to watch? I don't need your time. Okay, anything? Do you want to, like, can you give me a cure for cancer? Yeah, fuck you. Yeah.
You just say, all I want to give is this.
I don't know.
It's this book from Peter Kingsley. I know you can't afford it, so here's catafalque. All right, thanks. Yeah. And remember, Spud, stay away from technology. Stay away from technology. Bye now. See you. We will never win any awards for impressions or any kind of.
No. It's going to happen now this week, isn't it? That's what you do. All the woo listeners send out mind bullets for Spud to get contacted by a nice alien, not a bad one now. Okay. Yeah. None of you trickster people give me bad vibes. I want good vibes. That Spud's going to meet a nice happy alien, and he's going to give me presents and Peter Kingsley blood. And not 18 inches of fucking solid steel fucking alien penis.
Bye-bye.